Hi, good morning. This is Ginger Cook, and I want to invite you to come paint a really fun still life. This was by Auguste Renoir. He was an impressionist at the time of Monet and Van Gogh, and most people think of him as a portrait artist. He did a lot of people. He's really fantastic with people, but he also did several still lifes and floral arrangements. And since floral seemed to be popular on my YouTube channel, I thought it might be fun to do these peonies with Renoir. So let's go ahead and see what we can do with this. I think this might be really fun. And these are called Red Peonies. And so what we're going to start off with to do this is a 6x8 canvas. We're not going to do it real big, so that you should be able to do this easily. Now, of course, you can do this larger. I want you to know that we can do this larger. We're going to start out with a full palette of colors. This is titanium white. I've got a nice big blob of that. Phalo Blue, Thylacinine Blue, which is your tropical blue. Ultramarine Blue, Cad Yellow Medium. Let me just put this down. Let me zoom in on it. Let me just zoom in on the plate here. I like to write it down. Write it down if you can somewhere, even if you have to use tape somewhere. Write it down so you know what colors you've got. Yellow Oxide, Burnt Sienna, Cad Red Medium, and then this is Napthol Crimson. It may not be in your brand of paint, but it's your true red, and Dioxazine Purple. We're just going to start with those. I'm going to zoom us back out again. And autofocus and see. We can't autofocus on a red plate. Let's try that again. In a white plate, the camera will just go dark on us. Okay, so here we go. We focus on this. Is what we're going to start at. Now, just for fun, let's just get out a piece of chalk or something. Don't use a pencil if you can. Use chalk because you can wipe it off. And we want you to come out up about 2 inches on the side. Now, if this is a 6x8 canvas, this would be coming up about a third on this side. And we're going to come up about... I'm just not quite, about 2 3/4 inches on this side. We're going to come up on about 2 3/4 inches on the left. All right, make a mark so that, and then I'm just going to sort of draw a curved line in here like this, very gently, curved line in here like that. Don't need it very dark. Just sort of curve it, and at the very height of it, you're not going to see it. All right, you're not going to see it. This is just this is like a table. This is the round part of the table. Now the back of this picture, don't you see, it's all dark back here, and it's going to be blue up here. So the first thing we're going to do is just create an underpainting. And if you watched any of my other videos, this is really a simple thing to do. What I'm going to get is just a piece of, plain paper to put underneath it. Just going to grab a piece of paper and tear one off of my sheet here. There we go. Just grab a piece of paper and stick right underneath this, like that. And we'll just put this down here. And now I'm going to paint a dark up here and lighter down here. So how we're going to do that is we're just going to take a brush like this. Let's take a little white and a little ultramarine blue, not very much, and just a drop of Dioxazine Purple, and make this sort of purpley blue color. And then what you probably have to remember is that yellow grays purple because it's opposite itself on the color wheel. So I'm going to grab a little tiny bit of this yellow, like less than 1%, and kind of soften that purple out a little bit. Sort of if you get too much, it'll go real gray on you. All right, so that we're going to say that that's the sort of gray blue color that we want. And I want to just do there we go. So I'm going to come up here like this, and in this part of the canvas, I'm going to paint this sort of gray blue purple color. Now this is just our underpainting, and one of the things that I think people get a little confused about when they start painting is that they think they have to start painting the flowers first. They just get, what order do I paint in? Well, we're just going to paint the two basic colors that are underneath everything, and this light purpley gray color is underneath it, kind of the base for the tablecloth. So we'll just give that a quick coat of paint. If you understand how easy this is, we're using acrylic paints, professional acrylics, and they mix well. Now, if you're having trouble mixing colors, I learned recently from our local art store that there's certain manufacturers of inexpensive acrylic paints, and their little deal is that they make it where you can't mix the colors, so you have to buy them all. But if you buy a reliable brand of paint, I'm using Matisse, but you could be using For instance, Liquitex, professional heavy body paint. That's a good one. Winsor Newton makes a professional brand of paint, and Golden makes something too. Those are brands that you can kind of trust. Okay, so now I've got this sort of curved area, and I'm just going to take a minute and dry it, just for a minute, just not too much. I'll hold it down with my back of my brush. Take your hair dryer and just dry it. All you have to do, doesn't take much. I'm not drying it real well. Just give it a nice dry, like that. Hold it pretty close, a couple inches above your picture. Alright, I don't need it that well. Now, because I had a light color on this brush, because I had a light color, I'm going to rinse it off in water. Touch the bottom of it. Make sure you're touching the bottom of your little water container. And then I always wipe it off on a damp cloth. And I just reuse these rags. And if I find a little clean place, and there you go. I want to make sure I have all that color off. Now, the top part's going to be dark. So we need a dark color. So how are we going to make that? Well, for one thing, we're going to not have any white. You can't make this dark enough at this point. We could have probably started differently. We're going to take some Dioxazine Purple and some, maybe a little Phalo Blue and some Cad Red Medium. And we're going to make a real dark color. Phalo Blue, Dioxazine Purple, and Cad Red Medium. And look at this nice dark color. Well, you could have used a lot of different colors, but this is what I've decided we're using today. Now, check out how I'm doing this brush stroke, because this really makes a difference. All right, now just check that out, how I'm making the brush stroke. I'm going down and across, and I have paint on both sides of the brush. So when I turn the brush over, I'm now spreading the paint. You see that? Down and across. This is an excellent brush stroke for the back of a still life. Okay. Now we'll just keep getting some more here. Now this is going to go all the way across here, the whole canvas. You're going to paint that color, all right? So I'm going to pause that and just finish painting it so this video doesn't take hours, okay? Okay, so we finished painting it and I dried it. All right, now that's what we call an underpainting. That's all this is an underpainting. And that's fine. Now the brush is going to go in water. If you haven't already done that, don't leave them out because they dry out. And let's get a piece of chalk, or maybe even you might want to consider, if you like these are made in France. They're like a little white charcoal pencil by Conti, and they're really nice. Conti of Paris, and they're called pastel. They're a little white, and they erase easily. So what we're going to do is I'm going to let you see this picture. We're going to go ahead and center the vase on our table. So if I were to measure over here from the edge about in the center of the vase, it's about, oh, I don't know, 3 1/4 inches over on the corner. So I'll put a little dot here. And then I'm going to go up about 1/2 inch. This is about here. All right. And I'm going to say that I've got a little vase right here. It's going to come up like this. Just a little. You don't see most of it, so even if you don't get a perfect vase, it's like the letter U. Everybody remembers how to draw the letter U. True? And I think I'm up a little. I think I'm too low here, so I'm going to just change this. I want you to see it. I'm just going to change where I put this. Up a little bit here on the side. And I'm just going to kind of see that. So I've got this. Now, do you see how this is going this way? This is not good. So you want the side, you straighten out your sides. Make sure that they're up and down. Like that. Let's just straighten out the sides. Even though we're not going to see them. Just get in the habit of doing something easily. And then just take a little rag and see that. Just wipe off the chalk part you don't want. Okay, that was easy. Now we're going to say that this is this dark little vase that's coming up here. And what's interesting about it is that most of this picture is dark with the flowers. This will be an easy painting for you to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that same brush, wipe it off because it's been in water, and I'm going to just take that purple color that we used for the background. I'm going to just outline the vase. Remember that was the Dioxazine Purple, Cad Red Medium, and a little Phalo Blue. And I'm going to just turn this over because I think for me that's a little easier when I'm trying to draw something in here. Because my vase is going to be pretty dark. Just going to bring it up, leave a little of that chalk showing. Like that. I'm going to come up here on the sides. And this is my... Now, isn't that interesting? The vase is like the same color as everything else. Goes right up here like this. and it sort of melts into the background. So you don't see the top of the vase, just so you know. You just don't see it. But try to do this a little bit at a time, like that. There. See if you can see. It's just like the half of like a rounded staple. All right. So now let's put this back here. All right. So there's the bottom of our vase. That was pretty easy. Okay. Now while it's still wet, here's the trick. Get some of that background color. Do you remember how we made it? We took a little Ultramarine Blue, a little Cad Red Medium, a little bit of white. Let's make a little gray, kind of a light gray color. Let's take a little phthalo to that too. A little white. And I think we had a drop of Dioxazine Purple in it, didn't we? A little bit of white. Now I'm making this sort of gray color. And right up in here on the side of the vase, I'm using, just barely touching this, I'm just making some sort of little light highlight on this vase with the dark showing through, and because it's wet, you don't see much. It's just like that. That's all I'm doing. Might lighten this up one more time. Just, no, because this is still wet. So this is all we're doing, just like that. So that there's this little highlight. Now, where else could we put this color? We just made a color. Where else could we put it? Well, right next to the back of this vase, I'll put a little more white with this. And I could say I had a little light highlight going back this way, a little bit lighter than my gray background right about here. Going to connect the back of our vase. And I might have something kind of light under here too. I'm just going to say, just sort of wiggle some light about here, like that. I'm just saying we already mixed the colors, so might as well put it somewhere. And we'll talk about that because there's some lines that are coming out from our tablecloth that are kind of coming like this. They're very out of focus. There's some, you know, kind of lines like this. All right, and you don't see anything over here, but got one just a little bit above the corner in here. I'm going to just put these in with chalk so I know where I'm going. I'm going to have a big flower right here. That's okay. So this is about all we've got. So I've done a few little lines. I've done that. Now I'm going to go back into the purple color. And I'm just going to add a little bit of purple. And I want the brush strokes to be going toward me. A little bit of purple. We're going to start layering up some color. Now, while it's still wet, take a little ultramarine blue and white while it's still wet. Come right over the top of that wet purple. This is, remember, Impressionists, they all painted wet on wet. Nothing was dry. So sometimes in acrylics we'll fudge it. But whenever we can, let's try to make some wet. Now, don't do a perfect like little trough here, kind of make this uneven. So we've got these two colors sitting on top of each other like that. And then back over here, got this sort of lighter blue color that's coming this way, like that. Sort of that ultramarine blue and white and a little bit of that purple. And let's see, where else do I have a blue? I think I have a blue right in here. Here's a little bit of a blue color. Now this is all about layering, okay? So then where's a little purple? Maybe we'll put a little purple right over it, like that. Let's put a little bit of yellow oxide and purple together and see what happens. Make this sort of grayed purple. Put that on top, like that. I'm still showing my chalk lines where I want some light. I come under here like this and say I want this color here too. Come around here, just layering, layering and layering. That's all we're doing, is just layering and layering the colors. Now over in here, it's darker, so I'm just going to not rinse my brush, but I'm going to get a little purple and ultramarine blue together. And I'm just going to come around this way, kind of wiggle this back like that. Just say that back over in here, this is the start of these colors. Notice I'm going back and forth this way, not up and down. There's a direction to the brush strokes, okay? I'm going to pull that next to there. We go back and forth that way. Now, while this is still wet, I'm going to grab a little phthalo blue and white and a little yellow oxide and make this sort of green color. I'm not trying to go too fast, but I want to do this while it's still wet. The thing about acrylics is you got to do it while it's still wet. Now, I'm going to just tap that in on top of this. Just tap it in until I've mopped up so much of the purple that it doesn't show. You see how I've just tapped it? Okay, there's a little bit of tapping, and I'll grab a little bit up here. Tap a little bit over this, like that. Just tapping that. Oh, I like that. So tap this way. Now, is this color going anywhere else? Maybe. Let's grab a little of this color just tap some across this way in the front. All kinds of colors are going over this. Maybe I want a little of this sort of grade color up like this. I have a blue-green color. And let's see, I think I've got too steep a slope here on my table here, so I'm going to just take some dark background color and just flatten this out a bit like that. Kind of, there we go. So far so good. That's what we've got so far with the table. And it, you know, could we do some more? Well, maybe. But right now, that's it. That's all we're going to do, and then we're going to dry it. So I'm going to pause this video while we dry it, and you go ahead and dry it too. Okay, so we dried it. All right, so this is dry. Now let's keep going with some colors here. I'm going to take a little bit of white. We're just, as long as we're into these colors, I'm going to take a little bit of white on my plate now. Make a little bit of a lighter blue. So this is that same dark blue, but we've added more white. And I just tap something across here like this. Just tapping it. And maybe over in here too, I'm going to tap a little light. Barely touching it. I'm using the flat of my brush. I am barely touching this, so it leaves very little mark. See my finger? It leaves very little mark. So this is a tiny piece. If I was doing it bigger, maybe I'd do it differently, but this is a tiny piece. And I haven't introduced any light colors yet except for this. And I want something very light next to the vase, right next to under here. Do you see that? Very light there. And I'll pinch the brush off and get a little dark purple on one side, a little dark purple. And just come right next to that. If you have trouble doing a tiny line, just make a fat one and then make it smaller. So here's some dark purple, and I'm just sort of tapping in over here. This is sort of shadow that goes off the canvas like that. So there's a little dark. You can see where I'm starting to put some darks now. And because that's my darker side of the canvas. And let's see, let's just fix this. It's not curved here, so let's fix that. Okay, there. All right, so that's fixed. We've got some dark purple. There will be more shadows coming, but I think at this point this isn't bad. So now I'm going to rinse my brush again, and let's make more of a violet. Let's take a little bit of Napthol Crimson and a little Dioxazine Purple and a little white, and let's make a sort of a maybe a little Ultramarine Blue. Napthol Crimson. That's not Cad Red Medium. That's Napthol Crimson. Little Dioxazine Purple, a little Ultramarine Blue. And what that will do is it'll give us sort of more of a violet color. Put a little more red with it. Okay. So now I'm going to say that in here like this, see, I've kind of warmed up this this tablecloth a bit, and I'm tapping this on too, like that. See that? Just tap that kind of warmer color on. And I might want some of that back over here, like this, and maybe this is kind of going this way, but we're going to put some on top of this. Maybe something under the vase, like that. Okay, so that makes me happy. Now let's take a little white while we're still doing it. Oh, too much white. I'm just going to tap some white on. Because my brush is slightly dirty, this is all about layers. I want you to just get in the habit of doing 1 or 2, 3 strokes. Don't do 10, 15 strokes. Go 1, 2, 3, stop. 1, 2, 3, stop. And then look. Do I need anything over here? Maybe a little light thing over here? 1, 2, 3, stop. All right, 1, 2, 3, stop. I'm going to autofocus this again. Ooh, too dark. Let me just bring this picture back and try it again, because I want to autofocus on here. So I don't want this that washed out. I don't know why this is washing out. Maybe it's catching the plate. Let's try this one more time. There we go. There, see, I want you to see the darker colors we want in this. The camera's very sensitive to what we're doing. All right, so here we go. I'm feeling better about that now. So, all right, so I've put a little white here like this, and then coming up on the sides here, where you can wipe my brush off, didn't rinse it, just wiped it off. Coming up on the sides here, I'm going to zigzag in a little light. This is going to go under some flowers. And then right up along, remember where we did the chalk? We've got some light just kind of crossing over like this. This was some sort of pattern in the tablecloth. Same thing here where this little bit of chalk was. Like that. And then maybe back behind this vase over here, we're going to do a bit of light. Now, after we put the flowers, we can come back and add some more colors. But that's pretty good as far as what we've got for the tablecloth, because I'm going to darken some of this up. Maybe put a little darker purple here, a couple of places. And then some light over it. There we go. Just sort of mix it on the canvas. All right, so this is kind of where we are with the tablecloth. And now what I want to invite you to do is just do some X's where the flowers go. So I know I've got a flower here. I'll put an X, and I've got one here. I've got one up here. And I've got one that's coming on this side of the, right about here. You don't see the tablecloth. So there's one right here. And then up here there's a couple. 1, 2, 3 X's. Then tiny X, like that, tiny X. Okay. So going 1, 2, 3. And there's one up here at the top. Then I've got one over here, and then on this side, you don't see this side of the vase, so I've got a pretty big one here. I guess the ones with they're bigger, let's make a bigger X if we know they're going to be bigger. This one's going to be bigger than that one. This one's going to be bigger than that one. I've got a nice big one up here. It's a big X, okay? Then a smaller X up here, and then over here, and then one off on the tablecloth. Okay, so I think there's something up here. So I've made some X's. But the thing of it is that even though a lot of people think, well, I'll just go paint the flowers, but what gets painted first is the greenery. The greenery is behind the flowers, all right? So that's what we've got to paint first, is the greenery behind the flowers. So let's just do that. So let's take some yellow oxide, come back into our plate like this, a little ultramarine blue. All right, a little more yellow oxide, a little tiny bit of ultramarine blue. And what would happen if we just said that, oh, I know what let's just do. Okay. We could do it like this and just add it, but it wouldn't be as effective as if we put our background back. And let me show you why, because they painted wet on wet. So let me show you what we're going to do. We're going to take a little Dioxazine Purple, Ultramarine Blue, Cad Red Medium, more Ultramarine Blue, make this sort of dark. Let's put a little bit of yellow with this, maybe green it up a bit, tiny bit of yellow. There we go. Now, I'm going to come back over in here. I'm just going to ignore my X's for a minute. And I'm going to add another layer of background to this. Kind of green it up a bit. Same color background, but I added a bit of yellow to it. Okay. Now, I'm going to say this side is wet. I'm just going to show you how we're going to do that. Then if I come back with a little yellow oxide and the same color we were going to do before, but just some wet paint on the brush here. Maybe a little bit of yellow, yellow with it too, Cad Yellow Medium. And came over here like this, into the wet paint. Okay, what I can do, see what I'm doing here? And if that's too, if you mess it up, just take a little of the background color and then just skinny up your grass. This is an easiest thing, are these leaves. A little bit yellow oxide. Let's just come up here like that. Just some yellow oxide. There we go. And we're going to say that there's just some leaves or whatever's growing on up here like that. And we did that into the wet and wet first. See? So it kind of blurred out, and that's what you want. A little bit of wet on wet, and we want it kind of blurred out. All right, now let's just do the same thing on the other side. Let's just make some a little bit of Dioxazine Purple, a little Cad Red Medium, a little bit of yellow, a little Ultramarine Blue. And let's just come back over here. I'll put our X's back if you want for the flowers. I think it's better if we're going to wet the background again, but we've added just enough Cad Yellow Medium in it to give it sort of a green cast. But I still have the purple, still have the Ultramarine Blue. Okay, so now what we're going to do is do the same thing on the other side. A little Cad Yellow, a little yellow oxide, a little Ultramarine Blue. And let's just pull some vines, or some of these leaves, up here into the wet. There's quite a bit of paint on my brush when I do this, okay? Just going to say it in here like this. We've got something floating over this way. Let's just put a little more yellow oxide here. Here we go, a little yellow oxide. Okay, and I wanted to do this, just pure yellow oxide at this point because of what we've got on the canvas. Wanted to do this before we dried it, okay? I wanted to just sort of have this all sort of blended out. I'm going to pull one of these leaves. Now where it's dry, you see it acts differently than where it's wet. So if I pull it over the dry part of the vase, it's a little different. You can kind of see from the picture where we've got to put some color. And I know, for instance, I need some yellow oxide and something right in here like this, as long as I'm doing it. Put a little, this is where this is sweeping down. And I think I'm pretty good though. Might want something right in here. Let's just see. Something's in here like that. So see, it's all kind of going out in a starburst pattern. Okay, so now what I will do here is just dry this. What I'm going to do is just dry this, and then I will go ahead and add more detail to the leaves. Now I wanted to show you how I was drawing it because I'm not drawing it a lot. So let's just make our color. Let's take Cad Yellow Medium and Ultramarine Blue. So you can start with the Ultramarine Blue and add some Cad Yellow Medium into it. Make this sort of green color. Now add some Cad Red Medium and gray it out. Cad Red Medium, about 1%. Don't do it too much. If you get it too much, add some yellow to it. There we go. Now here's the trick. Pinch your brush and come along here and say, do I need to, you know, maybe just fix any of these leaves? Do I need to just, you know, add a little bit to some of them? You want to come up here and make this a little more definite. Of course, you can do this at any time, but I think it's a little easier to do it when it's still wet. And I know that I'm going to have something coming around here like this, and there's going to be, let's just put a little more yellow with this, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. And a little, maybe yellow oxide. Let's try that. I want this to be a little bit lighter on these front ones. So by adding a little yellow and yellow oxide, I brightened it up a bit, just to the brush. That's all I did. Just added that to the brush. And see, these front ones are a little brighter. Maybe like that. And then what we'll do is we will just, we've got some flowers going up like this. I'm just going to put the stem here like that. There's a couple over here. There's some lighter stems. Okay, so this is what we've got. So what we're going to do now is just dry this one more time. I'm going to pause the video while we do that. Okay, so let's put our flowers back. I kind of erased our X's, but that's good. It's good practice. All right, so we know I've got the big one in the front, smaller X. We've got one here. I managed to save these three, and then I got one up here. Let's put a little dot where that's going. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 going up. Then I've got this one on the side that's going to be coming out this way. This way. I'll just do it like that so you can kind of see it. And put a little dot, but it's coming out the side like that. And then we've got some on the ends of these two things. And then I've got 3 here. I've got a big one and 2 small ones off of here. And then between here and here I've got one. Then I've got a couple little ones up here, a couple little ones up there. And then where? Oh yeah, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. And then remember we said there was a pretty big one here. I'm going to move it closer. This was a pretty big one. This was a big one. And then these almost touch. And then there's a smaller one off here, right on top of this. This little green leaf. Then I've got another big one off the side of the canvas right here. You can still kind of see a little of it right there. And then I've got another one right here. It's a little smaller. Make a smaller X. I've got one over here. I think that one's still there. Okay. So this one, this first one is going to be at least this far down. This is how big this is going to go. Now, what we're going to do is just take an interestingly small brush, probably a clean dry brush, and we're going to start off with the darkest colors, and then we're going to keep going. So remember, we've got Cad Red Medium here. So let's just start off with these ones on the sides. Maybe that'll help you, just to start off with the ones over here on the side, all right? I'm going to just make those. So take some Cad Red Medium, maybe a little Napthol Crimson, and a little Dioxazine Purple, and mix those together. Okay, like 1 drop of Dioxazine Purple. Let's make this a little darker. We're going to come over here like this, big glob of paint, and the brush strokes are going out like this. Out from here like this. Okay, all going in this direction. And let's the same thing here. Out this way, like on a little spray. And then I've got the little tiny one up here, so I might as well put it. Well, I'm still got this color. I've got these little 4. So I've done little 4 here. You gotta see where I am. Now this one here, remember we said was bigger. So it's coming. It's not going to quite touch this, but it's coming out there. And again, the brush strokes are kind of going this way, out, sort of fanning out. It's darker here. And then we've got another one that sort of, we're going to just tap on. Everybody says, I like your mom. She just taps. I tell my daughter, the heart Sherpa, I like your mom. She just has to tap the flowers. We're going to tap this flower in. And then this one, I guess the brush strokes are going to go down like this. All right, so see how we did that? And do I need to zoom in on this for you guys? I can. Well, I can autofocus and zoom in. All right, so it's in, that puts a real glare on this. I'll just move it. Real glare on this. But I want to, let's just autofocus this. I want to kind of come in on this. Here, you just, there. All right, so now I want to just get close enough. Now I'm in this dark red color. So now from here, this is coming out from the side. This is coming down here like this. And then this is coming out from the side of the vase, out over the tablecloth in kind of a half circle with the little brush strokes going out like that. It's sort of facing this way, okay? Let's start with the dark color. And what you do is that while you start with the dark colors, remember we said we had a nice big one in here. So these are like almost like pom-poms in a sense. It looked like to me, it's not what he said they were, but you know, peonies, but who knows. So that's what he said they were. Okay, so now I'm going to come out like this with this big one. And then right behind it, same color, I'm going to make a smaller one. Remember, vary the size of your flowers. And I'm just going around in sort of an imaginary circle with these little brush strokes like that. Do them real slow. There's one, kind of like I'm spinning it. I'm curving it. I'm not just going straight out, like I'm curving them a little bit. I probably didn't tell you that, but I'm curving them. Okay, now I'm out of paint, but here we go. So coming up here, here's a small one, another one up here like this. Now I'm going to just tap this one in. This one doesn't seem to have as much detail as far as the direction of the brush stroke, so we're just tapping it in. And then above it, we're going to tap in another one up here. Just tap, tap, tap. They're not very big, proportionate-wise. Okay. Then next to this one is a nice big one. This one's really big. They're touching. This was a nice big one. I'm still tapping it in. Just going ahead and tapping it in. And red is the complement of green. So the reason you add red when you're making green is so you tone it down a bit. And if you're painting red over dark green, it's not going to show very much. It's going to be harder to see, which was the idea, by the way. If I had wanted these brighter, I would have painted them white first. Did you know that? If I'd wanted these flowers brighter, I would have painted them all white first. All right, now we got another big one here. So I'm still into my dark paint. Still playing with the dark paint. Might as well. Still painting with the dark paint. And by the time I get around to this, and this kind of comes up over our table a little bit. This, remember I told you this was a pretty big one. It's coming out. And we're doing the curved lines again on this one. Kind of uneven. Kind of curving some of the flower strokes. Then there was just something little here that we didn't say much of. We don't know what. Something there. Let me move this out of the way. And, all right, so 1, 2. Remember, we have one up here. This one's doing this again. This one's going out in sort of a half arc. Kind of going out this way. Kind of a half a circle. Kind of runs into that one. And I got this one. Then we got little one over here. That's a tapping one again. Gonna tap this one and then just do a few little petals coming down. And then over here, at the very bottom, we've got one which I'm sort of tapping in. It's sort of a sideways one too. We're not talking much about it. This was called impressionistic art, and it was done usually wet on wet. It was pretty easy to do. Now I'm going to zoom back out. Autofocus. There. All right, there. So I'll zoom back out. Now see, I've kind of laid in where the flowers are going. Now here's the trick. This is our first layer of flowers. So just take a minute and dry it. You don't need to dry it a lot, but just take a minute and dry it. Just kind of just crust it over. Just crust it over. Doesn't have to be great, but just sort of get a quick crust over. Now we're going to start adding colors. So here's some Cad Red Medium. That's a very bright color on top of red. And if I put some of that up here like this, just on the outside edge of this one, see what happened to it? See how I've just brightened up this flower? Like that. Just a little Cad Red Medium. The same thing down here with this one. I'm going to say that on the base of the bottom part of this one, I'm not covering up all my red. I'm still leaving that dark showing. I've got some Cad Red Medium coming this way. This is like the next layer on the flowers. Remember, in acrylics and in oil paint, everything is layered. It's a little bit of that color over here on the edge, not too much. I'm just going to put a little bit over on these, a little bit here on toward the back. So I'm going around Cad Red Medium. This is pure Cad Red Medium. And now I'm going to just switch for a minute. We're going to switch, and I'm going to add some white to this and make a new color. I'm going to add some white to this, and what I want to do while this is still wet is I want to come out from here like this with some white, lighter color. This is right over the top of the Cad, and almost in a semicircle I'm going to paint in this first flower like that. It's a little white. And on this one over here, I'm just going to tap in some of this lighter color, so a few little dots. I'm going to tap in using just the corner of my brush here. And I'm not trying to cover up all that dark, by the way. If you do put some back, if you get all your dark covered up, just come back with some dark and put it back. Alright, so we can say that there's that flower there. And I'm going to just take some Napthol Crimson now. That's our dark red. That's our red, not the... remember, the difference between Cad Red Medium and Napthol Crimson is Cad Red Medium has some orange in it. So now I'm coming in with this flower with the dark red on top of the dark stuff. Not the... we didn't have any purple in it, just pure out of the tube. We're saying there's that one. And I want to have a little bit of that red color. I'm going to just work on these flowers over here for a minute. Put a little red on top of that peach color we just made. And then a little tiny bit of white on my brush and a little bit of white, which will now blend because my brush is dirty. I didn't dry anything. See a little bit of white here? Just going to say that there's a little bit of a light edge right here, like that on this one. And, oh, that's nice. Don't go over it too much because it'll just disappear. It won't be white anymore. All right. So let's see. We want some sort of peachy color over here, so I'm just going to take a little bit of white and Napthol Crimson and maybe some Yellow Oxide and put with it. Now that's interesting. It's almost like a white. Try that. A little bit of kind of gray this out a little bit. And I'm going to tap over this flower here. Remember, I've got this. There were three here, so I've got one coming down here like this. And this one I want to bring some out on the edge too. These were all kind of muddled in together. And where's our dark? Okay. So if these were all muddled in together, let's just pull some of this light color top at the back of here. 1 or 2 strokes and stop. That's the trick. 1 or 2 strokes and stop. Alright, so we're going to go back to our sort of peachy color. What was that? That was Cad Red Medium and white. And try a little Yellow Oxide in that too. Just try a little Yellow Oxide in that too. Cad Red Medium white and a little Yellow Oxide. And just tap over this flower here. like that. Just tap over this one. Tap a bit of that color up on here, and then wipe your brush. Wipe your brush. Now take a little Dioxazine Purple and add to that. That will gray this color, like one drop of it. Now I want a gray color. I'm going to come back here with this sort of gray or light peach color over some of this flower, these back ones. Kind of gray that color down. It wasn't as bright, and this is how you gray it. I don't think I'm getting this too. Let me just zoom in so you can really see it. Alright, let me zoom in here. I want you to really see it. Now, this flower's lost some of its dark, and that's easy. I can just, while it's still wet, I will put that dark, kind of purpley red color we started with. I'm going to just add a few drops of that back, like this. And I want to see, where else do I want that? Maybe I want a little of that dark back on this one. Maybe put a little purple with it. Say, I want this a little darker right here, behind that flower. While it's still wet, I can darken it up. You see, still wet, I can darken it up. And let's see, I think I want to expand. This is that dark purple color. I want to expand this flower here and make it bigger, which I'm going to do now. Make that bigger, and I'll come back with a little Cad Red Medium over it. So expand that. And then this is dried kind of dark, so I'm going to add something here. Same color. Cad. Little Cad Red Medium up here. Wipe my brush off, not rinsing anymore. Coming back with some Cad. I'm only working on these, barely touching it. Tap, tap, tap. This is a little confusing because there's so many layers of paint on here, and I want you to get confused. But just do something and stop. One drop of something right like that and stop. Now let's come over to this one. We maybe want a little few drops of Cad Red Medium on top. Just tap a few. 1, 2, 3, 4, and stop. There, just stop. There, you see, we kind of got these flowers, but we don't have these. All right, so back to the Cad Red Medium. We're going to tap some of that in here like this, on top of this flower. And just start building these flowers up. And let's go back with the dark color. Go right on top of that. That's the dark, Napthol Crimson, a little bit of Dioxazine Purple. A little bit of dark color on top of the Cad Red. Push that back a bit. Nice dark color. Then maybe some Napthol Crimson right on top of that. A few little dots. And don't worry if the paint builds up. That's sort of nice if it's a little thicker. Okay, so we're saying that happened there, and then I want this coming around here a little bit. I want this a little bit brighter here. So that's all I did, was I layered that one. Now what? Oh yeah, this big one down here that's coming. This one's sweeping around. So let's take some a peach color here, and let's just come around here like this and sweep this flower sweeping down. It really is. You see it almost the way it's. You see the petals on this one. So we had the dark area, but we're going to sweep it a bit, so that this is a much bigger flower here. Now this is sort of that peach. And how do you make peach? It's red, white, and a little Dioxazine Purple, a little Yellow Oxide to gray it. Then we'll come back with some dark red. Come out here on the edges. This is just maybe go over that a bit like that. Maybe there's something dark here on top of this peach right here. It's all about layers. Now, Cad Red Medium on top of that. Maybe a little Napthol Crimson on top of that. See that little peach colors underneath? See that? Okay, like that. I'm saying that there's a little peach color under there. Maybe I'll take a little purple, and because that was kind of the dark vase color, I'll come under here and I might shape these leaves up. If you lose your leaves, just take a little vase color and put them back, okay? Don't panic if you lose the leaves, all right? You know where the vase color is. Now, this up in here, something happened up in here. So I want to just say that there's going to bring this up a little bit. Like that. And then right up in here, I'm just going to put some white on my brush, because while it's still wet, I want this side, light's kind of coming this way, got some white, and just while it's still wet here, I'm going to lighten up this little flower in the front, just while it's still wet. And if I get too much, If I get too much white, I know where the red paint is. I can just push it back, or the purple. I can push it back a little bit, but I wanted that right like that. Okay, and I'm going to zoom back out so you can kind of see it. Autofocus. There we go. All right, so we're moving along the flowers. Moving along the flowers, and we're doing well. We'll have this done in an hour. So I'm not going to do anything with this, but we are going to come back and add this sort of peach gray, kind of gray peach color up in here. We're going to say that somewhere up in here, put a little peach, a little purple in it, tapping in that color on top of this little flower, like that. I like that color. Where else can I put it? Boy, this little flower had a lot of that. That's peach with a little purple in it, a little tiny bit of purple, and we're tapping it on top of the dark red. Remember, these flowers kind of touch. I'm going to bring that, and you can expand it a little bit. It doesn't have to be just over the red part you did. All right, and now let's take a little Cad Red Medium on this one. Tap on top of that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Stop. Okay, just stop. All right, now let's go back to our peach color, which had a little purple in it. Remember, a little bit of red, white, a little bit of yellow oxide, a little bit of purple. And I'm going to tap on top of this. Tap all up on top of this, like that. Just to let you know, if my phone rings, I have it turned off on the iPhone. But what happens is, here's Napthol Crimson, is that the computer doesn't know it's off. So if you ever hear this phone ringing, that's what happened. I hope it doesn't ring while we're recording this. I figure I could go an hour without a phone call, but here we go. So there's, tap some red on top of that. And I'm going to wipe my brush off, not rinsing. Don't want any water on this brush. Tap some white paint. Now I'm going to tap while this is still wet. I'm tapping in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, it's still wet, so it's blending. See that on the kind of on the left side of this flower? It's sort of blending. The more you tap, it'll disappear. All right, so a little bit of. Then I want some over here. A little bit of white. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because it isn't really white because I haven't dried anything. Tap, tap, tap. Okay, tap, tap, tap. On this side, here, we're still in the white, okay? On this side of this nifty little flower, now my brush is getting dirtier, so this is getting pinker, so I haven't wiped anything off. So I'm going to turn it over and say, here's some little white flowers on this side of that little flower. All right, keep moving it so it wants to, when I move it, the camera doesn't like it when I move it, and that little green thing comes up. But there you go, you can kind of see there. See how we're putting it in? Because the lighter flowers are over here. Now, there is some white right here. I'm going to say that there's some white, and this is dried enough where I'm going to take a little bit of white, put a couple little white somethings here. Okay, and then a little bit of this peach color. See, we said this flower is too small right there. All right, let's make that one bigger. This one's too small, so I'm just going to increase the size of this flower like that with a little bit of yellow oxide. Then we're going to lighten this up. Make this flower bigger. This is easy. You guys, you just sweat the small stuff. You could dry it too. I could have dried it. Here, I'm going right into the white paint now. Ooh, too much. It's all right. I'll just tap that out. See, I'll just tap out. You can mix your colors on your canvas or you can mix it on your plate. But there you go. So I'm going to tapping that out. Let's focus that. All right, try not to move this anymore so the camera doesn't have a heart attack. Okay, so now I want something a little lighter up in here. On this one, not much, just a few little bits. I think it needs to be, not too much. A little lighter on that one. Okay, back to the peach color. This one's got a lot of peach color. Just tapping that over this one. This is, remember, that was one of the big ones. And it's got some, you can definitely see some of the brush strokes coming around here. That's kind of where they curve around. But mostly I'm just tapping. And because I have a little white on my brush, some of this white showing through. Now I won't clean my brush, but I'm going to take some Cad Red Medium and tap on this edge while this is still wet. Remember, those guys worked in wet on wet all the time. With a Cad Red Medium. like that, so that there's some here. And then could I put some over here? Where else could I put some Cad Red? I want some Cad Red back up in here. This is what I do. I move all around the picture and say, where else could I put it? Do I need any anywhere? Do I need any Cad Red Medium anywhere? If I do, I'm going to just go ahead and add it. All right, there we go. So I put a little bit over there. Now back to the peach color, like this. This one's coming out, if you recall. This one's pushing out like this, out from the side. Start, just lift the brush up. Okay, I'm going to just tap something over that. You notice there's a little white on my brush. I make a habit of never cleaning my brush, just sort of wiping it off, so I'm always getting the benefit of the color underneath. I'm back to Cad Red, right on top of that. Okay, so I've got that little flower. What happened to this one? Oh yeah, so let's just do something about this one. Let's see, back to the peach. Yeah, now we're going to just pull it out a little bit, some of these little petals out, like that. They're a little more pronounced than the tapping in the center. Tap, tap, tap. I always turn my brush around. Do you notice that? Okay, let's talk about that. I've got this corner, the flat, and this side. So if you watch real slow, you'll notice that if I'm tapping, I'm turning the brush. Tap, turn, tap, turn. Sometimes, you know, when you get a brush stroke going and you have to explain it to somebody else, you really have to think about what you're doing. It reminds me of a poem that I learned as a kid. It was, a centipede was happy quite until a frog in fun said, pray, which leg comes after which set his mind in such a pitch, he lay distracted in a ditch, considering how to run. And that's sometimes if you think too much about your brush strokes and try and tell someone else how you do it, you're going to spend a little time distracted considering how to make your next move, because this becomes muscle memory. Who plays the piano in this group that's watching, and you know what I'm talking about? This is muscle memory at some point. You've just told your mind you want some flowers up here, and your mind's doing it for you. And you see how I'm putting in the lights? And let's just put some kind of grade color over here, sort of a grade peach. If you want to grade the peach, put a little purple with it. And I'm going to say that here's a grade peach color. I've got a little purple on this flower in this corner. Do I want any of this purpley color over here? That's nice. Maybe on top of this I'll put a little of that. How about down here? That's nice. I could use some of that purpley color here. Go back over this one. Okay. And then pinch the brush, little Cad Red Medium, while this is still wet, and pound it in. Now I'm not going light. I'm just sort of mixing the cad on top of this little flower here, like that. Then a little tiny drop of 1, 2, the center of this, like that. A few little white dots. That little flower. Do I have any white coming up here? White petals. This, just going around looking, see where else could I put some white. I think I've got a little white petal coming up this way now. Do I want to put in more white on top of this? It's dried enough where I can come back. Maybe some Cad Red Medium on top of this one. Just brighten this one up in here. Okay, brighten that flower. Want a little cad here. Pull some little petals going this way. And this was a big flower here, and I didn't make it really as big as it needed to be. This was a big flower here off to the side. So there we go. Let's take a little bit of dark red now. I think I got carried away. There, all right, so there's some dark. Okay, then I want some real light peach. Real light peach. I'm going to come this way on top of that. Bring it, the layer over this. And it's got a little white on my brush, so that's going to show too. Oh, that's pretty. All right, now what about this? Lighten this up. Just the, you know, if you thought of these flowers as a clock, I'm lighting it up between about 9 o'clock and 12 o'clock. How's that? You thought of these little circular things as a clock. And it's right like over here about 9 o'clock. I'm giving it a little bit more white paint here. Discussing this flower here. It's pretty, huh? Kind of cool. All right, now, let's just take a minute. I'm going to pause the video again. We're going to take a minute and dry this, and we'll finish the tablecloth, okay? So I'm going to pause. Okay, so I dried it. Now it's looking nice, right? Now we just have to add some more darks and lights and stuff, and we're good to go. So one thing we got to put is, let's get that green color back. And right here in the back of this flower, because we dried it now, let's put that green back on the back of this. See here? And that's kind of a dark green color. Okay, it's on the back of this. We're saying that there's this dark green. And I'm going to take a little light color. There's my, it's coming there. There's a stem that's coming off of there. See there? See my little stem? Then I need to say, is there any other greens that I need to add somewhere? Do I need to add any green? I mean, because you've got to look and see if there's any greens and light greens. This had more of the gold greens in it, not the real bright greens. You've got to watch your greens. The first real sign of an amateur artist is one who makes these. Don't get greens the color of this ruler. If you've got greens the color of this ruler, that means you are not adding enough red to your picture. If you've got any greens this color, fix it. Because you're not going to like it. It's going to look weird. So start with, if you want a grade green, start with ultramarine blue and maybe a little yellow oxide, and that'll give you a beautiful grade green. I'm going to come back here and say if there's any, I don't know, leaves or something I have to add that I didn't quite get. Up like that. Maybe something up in here like this. Just go through here and just check out and see where else do I need some green. If you want to, you can put a little purple with the green. That's another way you can gray the green. You can add a little purple to it, and that will gray it. See, I think I'm pretty good. I think that there maybe was a little green something right here, a couple right there in front of that, coming down by that flower. But I think we're pretty good. I think this came out rather well. And again, you can change your background. If you have a leaf, for instance, you don't like, or you have a flower you don't like, take the dark background color, which you know how to make, skinny up some leaves. Don't live with the ones you don't like. I know you've got a couple. If you're painting at all, you must have had a couple. And just re-put them in again. You know where the paint is. Just change them. I want these going down a little bit. So see how I change that? And you can change that. I've got to get in the habit of not moving this picture. Come on, automatic focus here, darlings. Hold it in. Okay, so now, all right, I think that's pretty lovely. And just maybe do something in here like that with some leaves. Okay, so now what I'm going to do now is work on the tablecloth. So that is our big thing. We're going to start working on the lights and shadows on our tablecloth. So let's start. I've been in green, so let's, oh wait. Let me take a little yellow oxide, put something bright, pure yellow oxide right there, and just say that that's brighter right here where this little leaf went over. Just want to see if there's any yellow oxide I have to put anywhere as a highlight, because the yellow oxide is my highlight. A couple places it's going to be. That is my highlight, you guys. So there's my yellow oxide is the highlight. All right, rinsing the brush. We'll wrap this up. Okay, so I want to put my dark, let's just get the darks and the lights going again here. I know I've got some sort of dark purple shadow under here like this. So I'm going to put that. Maybe that's the shadow from this leaf here. Not sure. Something a little dark here. There's some little dark thing here. All right, this is the bottom of our vase. So you want to make sure that you've got some good shadows underneath your this flower. So if you have to go back and you know, make those little brush strokes to lighten up that flower, I'm going to still go back and lighten that flower up. Now, all right, remember we talked about taking purple, not Cad Red Medium, but purple and burnt and red and white, and making more of a violet color. Do you see that? Let's just make more of a violet color. And it's going to be more red than purple. So I want a little violet color now. And I want to put some of that in my tablecloth. A little bit of that in here, like this. I think we had blue with it before, that's why. Yeah, there was a little blue with this before, as I recall. That was ultramarine blue. So it's not quite so violet. And just going to change some colors back over in here. Like that. Say that there's some violet. I want to make sure I've got this tablecloth it going around our table. Make sure you've got that. And let's see. Little purple and white. I'm not rinsing my brush, so it'll just be something. Purple and white. And I'm going to just turn this like this and come around here and make sure that I have my table. Make sure that's white enough. Let me wipe all the paint off my brush. It's dirty, so I'll just put a little white on it. Now, wipe the brush. Now, just spread that around. I want this a little bit lighter here. Why? Because it's kind of next to this flower. Then we'll put a little blue with it. Just remember, this is what they did. Everything was worked wet on wet, so we don't do that as much, but we can get that effect. Just kind of come through here and kind of darken that up. Maybe put something across here. Here's a little ultramarine blue, kind of across that purple. Okay, that's pretty. A little ultramarine blue. I know I've got some, this is ultramarine blue now. I want to put these darker blue shadows in here somewhere. Like in here. Maybe back here. Just 1, 2, 3, stop. She said, where'd you just put it? I didn't see where she put it. Well, I didn't. So 1, 2, 3, stop. Okay, just 1, 2, 3, stop. Can't say that enough. I'm kind of looking at the picture. And this is nice. We've got this pretty tablecloth. We've got this. Let's get some white colors going in here. So I wiped the brush, didn't rinse it. Now I want to come across here with some light colors. And come under my vase with something light, right like in here. Wipe it off. I haven't dried anything, so I'm going to bring a little purple over that white. And then just melt that into here, like that. A little bit light here. And then there was this sort of light area in the tablecloth, holding my brush real flat. And just, this is kind of real fast, going, stop. Well, sometimes stop, and then the same thing here, maybe a little white thing here. Then there was definitely something white under this, like over here. That's too much, so you know what? If you get too much, put some blue on top of it. There, just a little tiny peak of little white peeking out. And there was some white next to this flower, like back over here, a little drop of white. Remember, your eye is going to follow the light. And because you'd think I'm doing white, but my brush is dirty, so it's kind of doing a light gray color. All right, and then back under here, back under this part of it, it was more of this, where my chalk is. It was just, we're going to just see less of this light color of the vase. Like that. And then I want to break up, take some phthalo blue and white, and a little green color. And I want a little phthalo blue up in the front. Like that. So sort of this phthalo blue white and a little bit of that green color. And I've got this sort of grayed, kind of more of a turquoisey green. And there is some turquoisey green in this tablecloth, which makes it really pretty. Just not much, just a little bit. And let's just see how we're adding some up in the front. Not too much, just a little bit. And then wipe the brush and go back with some purple shadows. I know it seems like a lot. Well, where did she put the purple shadows? And I don't know what she just did. But, you know, just look at the pattern. Just pretend like you are an emissary for the United States, and the Martians have landed, and they've asked you to translate. And these colors here mean, hi, we're going to be friends or not, depending on whether you can translate us right. And so when you're looking at a pattern, don't say it's a pattern of anything. Just say it's a little blob of color like a puzzle, and where else am I going to put it? That's what you want to ask yourself. This is a little light here. Let's just, there we go. There's our light table. And then I'm going to break this little bit up here, little light up here with a little bit there. So I'm kind of looking at that going, now I like our tablecloth. I like the pattern we've got going with it. I like the fact that maybe there's some white coming off the bottom of the canvas right here. I like that there's this pattern of, I think there was a little light under this. Maybe there's a little light right here too. It seems to me like there was a little bit of light going this way. Just up here by my vase, like that. And Let's put some blue-green back here. Okay, so there's our vase. And I think this is too much of a white shadow under the vase, so let's fix that. Maybe come up here with a little red. I want it light, but I don't need it that bright. Okay, there we go. That's neat. Now let's just go back and add colors to our flowers now. Let's just finish it off by adding colors to our flowers. See where we need some colors now. I want to look at our flowers and see where do I need color and where don't we? Because remember, you can, you know, do I need to, if I took a little Cad Red Medium here and just add a little bit, would it be brighter? Just a little bright highlight right there. And then if I did that, what if I had some Cad Red Medium out on the tips of this? Just right here, a few little drops. Where could I put maybe some little Cad here? Go back with your reds. Reds are one of those colors that can stand two coats because we didn't paint these flowers white first. So they could stand two coats. So you can go back, not that you can't overpaint something, but you can go back and just add a few more highlights because you may think, you know what, I just did that. Let's just take a little Cad Red Medium and yellow. Make this sort of orange color. Cad Yellow Medium and Cad Red Medium. Gonna make a little orange. And just lighten this one up over here. It doesn't all have to be exactly the same. You can add a few drops of something and it gets pretty. I don't have any yellow in this, but for instance, this flower right here is pretty big. I could lighten this one up a bit just by adding a bit of the orange color. That's Cad Red Medium, a little yellow. Then I'll come back over on top of that with some Cad Red. Lighten this up like that. Then on top of that, I'll take some white and tap that in. See, that flower's kind of lighter over here. So I'm mixing colors on the canvas. All right, that was a lighter color. And this was a lighter color down in here. Tap this, still have it on there. So I'm thinking, where else could I put it? Let's put a little bit of white up in here. Ooh, too much. It's all right. If you get too much, just go back with the red paint and break it up. Don't try to wipe it off or anything. Just, if you have to, dry it and paint over it. All right. So I think there's some light. Here's some dark reds right here. It's a little dark reds. I'm going to put some dark reds back. And I'm saying that that was a, if you remember, we said this was a little flower here. So if I take the background color, I can make a stem by just putting a little purple back. See how you can make a little stem? So don't panic if you get something too wide. Just take your background color and put your stem back or skinny up a leaf or whatever you need to do to make yourself happy about it. There's no reason ever to be unhappy. Now I'm going to go back with the dark purple ultramarine blue color, and I want to make sure that I have enough dark set in these flowers. Make sure there's enough dark on this vase. So I'm going to put a little dark back, which you can do. Let's put a little dark back over here. Okay. All right, so we're doing awfully well. I think this is just pretty much the way I'd like it. The only other thing, there's always an only for me. You know that if you've ever watched anything. I look at this because the thing is I try to keep these to an hour, and we're right at an hour, and I think we've done pretty well. But then I want to come back here and maybe do a few light touches on this one here, and then maybe back where that little green is, lighten this up. Here where that little green is underneath that flower, like that. Lighten that up. And that's too light, so let's put a little red over it. There we go. Just tighten that up there. Okay, so that's our Renoir. Here, let me move all this. Let me just move it like this. Ooh, I like that. Let's turn this over. This is our Renoir vase with peonies. They were all hanging in there together, painting stuff, and Renoir and the Impressionists. Think of Monet. They all knew each other, and they all painted similar things at some point or another. You'll see almost crossovers. I'm going to just touch up the corners now of my canvas. Don't be afraid to do that if you need to. Figure out where else you want to put something. I think I'd like a little bit of a light. See, she couldn't stop. A little bit of a light highlight right here on the vase here. Just a little bit, right? Remember we did the first one. Just right in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, stop. Little light highlight on this vase. And then I'll show you a trick. I'm going to dry it. This is my last little trick here. I'm going to dry it. Then I'm going to glaze over that. I wanted it lighter, but not that light. So the one way to get that is to put it, dry it, and then take a little Dioxazine Purple and water, and then just glaze over that. So I'm just going to push that back a little bit in a couple places and lighten it up, and then just pushed it back. And that's what you can do too. Anywhere you think you've got too much white, you can just take a little water and a little purple. Kind of glaze back over some of your white. Won't be so bright. You think that might be helpful. But I hope you had fun painting this. I think this is one of my favorite paintings he did. And oh, I forgot the little white. Apparently there were some white highlights back here. Let me just put them right here. There was one here, a little light highlight back here on the table. All right, so there's some sort of little white highlights right there on our vase, and that is our picture. And I'm going to automatic focus it again. And just click it like that. So if this was fun, you know, if you enjoyed this, consider joining us for the weekly lessons. Go to gingercooklive.gallery. And, you know, I do weekly lessons. I've got all kinds of stuff of these kind of videos and everything else from you can't imagine. And it's really a lot of fun. And if you thought this was a good thing to do too, I'm always adding new things to our YouTube channel. So please subscribe. And I'd love it if you comment and hit a like. That's always nice. Tell your friends if you want to come paint with me. I'd love to see you. And if you ever have questions about anything, write in the comments. I usually answer within a day or two. So feel free to ask me questions, and I'm happy to answer. So thanks for watching. This is Ginger Cook saying I hope you have a fabulous day, and happy painting. Let's see, let's just turn it like that. We're going to stop the video.